Okay, hello and welcome back for another lab for consumer chemistry. This week we are making bread for week 8, lab 8, Pace University, Dr. Minnis' consumer chemistry class. Not a whole lot to tell you, but just going to be again using yeast, some bread flour, and mixing a whole bunch of ingredients to make some bread. So stay with me. I'm going to follow the process as outlined in the lab, and we'll make some bread and see how it turns out. So again, as always, I'll zoom in and we'll follow the whole process. Okay, so the first part of the process is to proof the yeast. To do that, I have to add the yeast to a cup of warm water, lukewarm water. I've already got that set aside here. I've got my Fleischmann's yeast already pre-measured here. This is equal to what's in about 1 envelope. So I'm going to go ahead and add the yeast there to the water. Second part is adding a teaspoon of sugar. And I've got my sugar pre-measured here. Here's a teaspoon of sugar. We're going to add that to the mixture there. And we will stir that up. It's funny, after the one of the first videos, my niece was watching it on YouTube, and she said, meanwhile Lenny's doing a cooking show. Now I am doing a cooking show. This is kind of funny. So anyway, I've got that in there, and we'll go on to the next step. So stay tuned. Okay, the next part of the process here is I've got a cup of milk that I've heated, and it's not too warm, but it steamed and had a little scum that formed at the top that you can tell it had thickened up a little bit on the top. So what we do with this is we're going to add 2 tablespoons of sugar to the milk. And we're going to let that cool. Actually, in addition to that, we've got a teaspoon of salt, and we'll add a tablespoon of butter. So we're going to stir this up. And once it cools down, we'll be mixing this and the yeast mixture together and start making some bread. Okay, so I mixed the milk and the yeast. I'm only doing half since I've kind of got a limited quantity of flour. I didn't want to make too much, so I've got a little extra yeast and the milk combination. So I've already got that mixed here. The next step, it says, is to add flour about 1/2 cup at a time, and then stir it until we can't stir it anymore, until it gets too hard to stir. So I'm going to go ahead and add some flour. And start stirring. So I'm going to keep doing that, and when it starts getting a little hard to stir, I'm going to turn the video back on, and so you guys can kind of see that as well. Okay, so you continually stir and add in flour, and eventually it becomes too hard to stir like this. At that point, you take some flour. There's the oven getting ready, so we're almost ready to bake, but you take some flour and put it on the counter. The counter's already clean. Maybe I'll put a little more. And then we're going to take the dough. If I can get it out here, and we're just going to lay it in the flour. And then from here, it's going to be like last week, playing with flubber. Except this week we're playing with edible flubber. When this is over, we're going to be eating this stuff, so we're taking our time and going to make this nice. But we're going to knead this into the flour, and then from there we'll pick back up with the video. So you can kind of see how that looks, and I'm going to use my hands to knead that in, but I kind of need to stop the video because I don't want to keep contaminating the camera with dirty hands and vice versa. So we'll pick back up in a moment once I've kneaded that in a little. Alright, so I think I've got this pretty well kneaded. Well, not quite as good as Connie on her video, but the next step is once you have it to where it's no longer sticky. We're going to take it and put it in this bowl. I'm not quite so sure mine looks right. It's not quite as all one piece as Connie's was, but I'm going to go ahead and set it in the bowl. And we should see it rise, and we'll see what happens. So that's that part of the bread making process, and we will pull that in so you can kind of see what I've got. And we'll come back and see what happens if it rises. So I had the dough in here, and it expanded to twice the size as it was originally, and then I took it out, beat it, punched it out, and then rolled it up, and now I've got it in here. So we'll see if this rises again. It should, and then from there, once it rises, it'll be ready to go in the oven. So as you can see, the bread did rise. And it's ready to pop in the oven. Okay, so it's been in the oven for about a half hour. I'm going to go ahead and pull it out and see what we have. Looks like bread to me. And I usually don't cook very much, so I'm kind of astonished it came out looking normal. But there we have it. I'll get you some better close-ups once I take it out of the pan. So just as Connie did in her video making the bread, I put some butter on mine, and I've wrapped it in a towel like she suggested, but just I'll give a quick preview of what that's looking like under there. Still very warm. It looks like a nice loaf of bread. Can't wait to try that. I will film cutting it and tasting it tomorrow, and that'll be that. But it looks like my bread making adventure was successful. Have a good one. Okay, so I let the bread sit out overnight, and it looks really good this morning. So here we've got the bread. I'm going to cut it. I guess I'll cut it first. See what it looks like. See that? There's the bread. So it looks pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and give it a taste and see. That's really good. So, I made some bread. Alright, well thanks, and I'll write up the lab report and submit that in. until next week.